Chapter 62:48. After that, the other party continued. Jimmy, what you should pay attention to now is not that I fire you. This is just the smallest punishment you can receive. If you offend the Rothschild family, they will not let you off easily. At this point, the other party continued. Oh, by the way, I have handed over all the evidence of the Mel Goodman incident to the Rothschild family's butler. If they are still not satisfied with the way I handled it, they may put you in jail. In that case, I advise you not to return to the United States. For such a large amount of money, you will not be able to escape life imprisonment. You are already 50 years old. Even if you have the opportunity to be released on parole in the future, you will probably be over 75 years old. Although you and I are colleagues, I can't help you much. You'd better take care of yourself. Jimmy broke out in cold sweat and his legs were shaking like sieves. He wanted to say something else, but the boss on the other end of the phone had already hung up. Jimmy was in a state of panic at this time. He never dreamed that he would actually offend the second-in-command of the Rothschild family in this small city in another fucking country. Looking around the world, there are only a handful of people whose status and position can be compared with Steve Rothschild. The probability of provoking him in such a place is probably lower than the probability of winning the Powerball lottery in China and the United States. At this moment, his rogue aura just now disappeared without a trace. And he said to Steve in fear and trepidation, "Mr. Rothschild, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect it was really you. It was all misunderstanding just now. Please don't take it to heart with me." Steve had been here for many days now. He finally used his identity as the heir of the Rothschild family to show off, but was ridiculed by Jimmy. He was so angry that he had nowhere to vent. Seeing that this grandson still wanted to beg for mercy from him, he immediately became furious and cursed with gritted teeth. "You are the first person who dared to shout at me since I was a child." After saying that, he suddenly realized that something was wrong, and his eyes involuntarily glanced at Charlie. And Charlie also looked at him with a puzzled look on his face, with a little surprise and ridicule on his face. Steve coughed and changed his words. "There are people who dare to challenge me, but they are all people I respect and admire. You are just a small lawyer, and you dare to challenge me. Who do you think you are?" As he was talking, Steve's cell phone rang. It was the butler who called. He answered the phone immediately. The person on the other end of the phone said respectfully, "Sir, I have already talked to Ellis's boss. He said that he would immediately fire Jimmy and completely ban him from the American legal profession, so that he would never be able to be a lawyer in the future." Steve asked, "Anything else?" The butler said, "Ellis's boss just sent me some documents. These are all evidence of Jimmy Smith's suspected economic crimes. If necessary, the materials can be transferred to the FBI at any time. He said that at least Jimmy can stay in prison until he is 75 years old." "Okay," Steve said with satisfaction. "Let's do it this way. Hand all the information to the head of the FBI. Tell him what I said and ask him to personally supervise this matter for me. I will not let this guy go back to the United States." The housekeeper immediately said, "Okay, sir, I'll arrange it right away." Steve hung up the phone, looked at Jimmy with a sneer on his face and said, "After today, you will be a wanted person by the FBI. If you go back to the United States, you will be arrested as soon as you get off the plane. You will be sentenced to at least 20 to 30 years in prison. So I advise you not to go back. Find a job in Nanjing. After all, there is no extradition agreement between China and the United States. As long as you have not been deported, you can avoid going to jail." Jimmy was so scared that tears came to his eyes. His legs softened and he knelt on the ground and begged, "Mr. Rothschild, please let me go. You can hit me or scold me, but please don't give the information to the FBI. Otherwise, my life will be over." Steve shrugged and sneered, "All I want is for you to be finished. If you don't finish, where will my face be?" Seeing that Steve didn't give him any face at all, Jimmy quickly looked at Mai Ching on the side and cried and begged. "Sister-in-law, please help me say something, sister-in-law." Mai Ching was still a little dazed. Seeing that Jimmy, who was arrogant and rogue just now, suddenly begged her, she didn't know what to do for a while, but just said awkwardly, "Jimmy, I don't know Mr. Rothschild. It's not easy for me to comment on the conflict between you two." Mai Ching didn't deliberately fight back against Jimmy, but because she knew in her heart that a big man like Steve was not someone they could make friends with. He must have come for Charlie's face. Pollard might not really know him, let alone herself. Jimmy had completely lost his lifeline at this point, so he could only pin all his hopes on Mai Ching. He knelt down in front of her and cried, "Sister-in-law, please help me plead with Professor Watt. I will never covet the shares of Smith Law Firm again. I just ask that you let me return to the United States safely to reunite with my family. I really don't want to go to jail. And I don't want to stay in China forever, sister-in-law."